Welcome to the Viking Age podcast, the official podcast of the VikingAge.com. My name is Schad. I write for the Viking Age as well as Bring Me the News, Zone Coverage, and the Brookings Register. We do this every Monday with a late week episode right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel. We're in podcast form on Apple and Spotify the very next day. But however you consume us, make sure you rate, comment, like, and subscribe, so you never miss a new episode and we can spread the word to the masses. As you can see, my co-host, fresh off the final day of school, is Mr. Nick Marty. How are you doing tonight, Nick?
Today is like a holiday for me. One of the biggest holidays as an educator is I said bye to my class. I look ahead to 3 months of being a dad and doing whatever I want, staying up late, not having the Sunday scaries anymore. And so life is good right now in my household.
Yeah, it's very good. You know where else it's good? In Viking land right now. The Vikings did not trade Justin Jefferson from Elite Neighbors. I'm actually reading another I'm reading another quote by Mike Florio, Mike Florio. I was thinking it was Mark Florio for whatever. I've had a long day myself. We'll get into that in just a moment here. But let's just start right off the bat, man. Justin Jefferson is signed. The Vikings drafted JJ McCarthy. They seem to be in a better spot than they were back in the spring. Did the Vikings crush the offseason in your mind?
Well, here's what it is, right? We won't know until things play out. But when you look at like a checklist of things that they had to accomplish this offseason to feel good about moving forward, man, they hit everything that they wanted to do, everything that was laid out at the end of last season, with the quarterback, with Justin, with the defense. Like everything fell into place. We had to wait a little bit on a few different pieces. There was a little bit of nerves, and us Minnesota fans don't ever handle that well, right? We always think the sky is falling and JJ hates us and he's going to leave us and we're going to trade him. And, but we did it, man. We did everything that I wanted them to do, that I felt that they were capable of doing. I mean, there's always going to be people who are like, why didn't you sign the top 6 free agents to these deals? That like realistically, we could not have had a better offseason, in my opinion. And I think we're built up for long-term and short-term success, which is going to be kind of fun to watch and see how things play out.
And I think you nailed it right on the head that coming into the offseason, I think Vikings fans wanted the Vikings to do several things. They wanted to find a franchise quarterback. They wanted Justin Jefferson locked up for the foreseeable future with a contract extension. They wanted to, I mean, some people don't really care about the cap space. But they moved on from Kirk Cousins. Some people wanted him to stay. Others were kind of had enough. I was in the latter camp, obviously. I think this is very good, but I don't think deep down it's what we want or the fans want. This is what Kwesi Adofo-Mensah wanted. And Matthew Collar and the Athletics' Alec Lewis had a episode of Purple Insider the other day. And they were talking about a side session they had with Kwesi at OTAs. And he said that when he and Kevin O'Connell got to Minnesota, they made a list. And obviously both of our minds are going to Chris Jericho and the man of 1,001 holds, or, the list when people are in trouble, right? He goes, you just made the list. I don't think he does. Kwesi walks around TCO Performance Center with a pen or anything, but like, what do you think when they got to Minnesota was on Kwesi's list to accomplish not only this offseason, but over the past 3 off seasons to get them back in that Super Bowl window?
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing was a quarterback. Like, I love Justin to death, and I think he's a huge part of this team, and he is impactful. But you don't win the big one. You don't think, the top of the mountain without a young quarterback. Whether that plays out or not, we will see, but we are at least in the ring. We at least have that lottery ticket. New quarterbacks to me look like lottery tickets or scratch offs. You want to have you can't win if you don't play. And we have one now, and we're going to see if he is the right one. But to me, that was top of the list, and they got it.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote down a couple of things because I think quarterback obviously was at the list. And we'll just go piece by piece here. I think number one was find a quarterback, because I don't think they hated Kirk to the point where they wanted him out of Minnesota. Like, this thing is over. We don't like you. Like, you're only going to win 9 games. You're never going to get past the second round of the playoffs. I think they really did like Kirk. And I think, the first 2 years here working with Kirk and everything else, when they got here, he was 34 years old. So they probably looked at him like, hey, we can get 2 good years out of Kirk. Maybe he tails off towards the end, and that's the time to go get your quarterback. To Kirk's credit, he kept getting better. But now you're 36. You're coming off a torn Achilles. Unless your name is Rich Gannon, Peyton Manning, or Tom Brady, success isn't common for quarterbacks of that age, especially coming off that injury. So if Kirk had agreed to like a short-term deal, I'm sure the Vikings would have loved to have him in Sam Darnold's spot right now, even though signing Sam Darnold saved you a bunch of money, which let you go into free agency and cook a little bit with Jonathan Grenard, Andrew Van Ginkel, and all those guys. But, turning around, going and getting your guy in the first round, finding JJ McCarthy, I don't think they could have executed this any better unless they had like sold. I mean, even if they did trade up for Drake May, you sell the farm, you give up multiple first round picks, and then what? I mean, with McCarthy, you stay at 10, you trade up, you get Dallas Turner later in the first round. I mean, I think they crushed it, even if McCarthy doesn't pan out.
That's a great point. I mean, I think the great part about this is you have a shot at a really good young quarterback, but you said it perfectly. We didn't, give up everything, sell our souls, where it's either JJ or bust, right? Like, we have some flexibility that if he starts to not perform, if he's mediocre, if he's just not good, right? We just hit the reset in a couple of years and we're kind of not out anything but time. And so I think it was great. And I loved the Kirk point. I've had a couple of friends talk to me about like, hey, we got rid of Kirk and he was like peaking, right? He was gaining, he was getting better. And I think to myself, hey, like, this coaching staff took a 34-year-old quarterback who, the old saying, like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, they figured out a way to unlock another level of him. And that was at the end of his career. I'm super excited to see what this coaching staff can do with a little bit more of a blank canvas and the growth that we could potentially see out of McCarthy from now, within 3 years from now, with what we've seen them do with Kirk. I'm just excited about the whole thing. I think that they hit what they wanted to do, and they didn't have to sell anything to do it. And so I'm pumped with how that whole thing played out.
And I think too, like, this whole thing is it's a process, right? Because I think a lot of people are looking at, especially the Kirk fans, so like, well, you selected JJ McCarthy in the first round. You got to get him out there. You got to play. You got to do all that stuff. Well, here's the thing. Like, we're already on Twitter right now going off about JJ McCarthy is inconsistent. That's not a good sign. He's definitely a bust if he can't beat out Sam Darnold. Well, like you just mentioned, old dog, new tricks, right? So Sam Darnold comes in, and I'm not confident in Sam Darnold. I want to bring that up. I've said it a couple times. I think the Vikings can win games with Sam Darnold. I'm not expecting him to overtake JJ McCarthy as the quarterback of the future. I think Sam Darnold can lead them to a 500 season, if you want me to say it that way, because I think he can get the ball where Kevin O'Connell wants it. I think he's got the weapons where they can prop him up just a little bit, not to a franchise level, but maybe just like an adequate enough level. And the Vikings can have a solid season where you're not embarrassed, kind of the Minnesota way, right? Not like dumpster fire, but not championship level, just right in the middle. And I think it's great because it buys JJ McCarthy time. Think about how long it took Cousins to learn this offense. Like, it took him 2 or 3 years to really master it and get to the level he was at last year. So I think, honestly, I think the ideal thing is what they did with Dante Culpepper back in the day. Have him sit, take a full year to digest everything, soak it in, and have him hit the field next season. But If he does hit the field, I'm not going to be upset either. I think that's my expectation right now for JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, and I just hope that when he does hit the field, it is because the coaching staff feels he's ready, and it isn't because they feel like they have to. Right? Like and this is going to be way out of the Minnesota way. We love our division championship first round losses. We feel good about that, right? And I love that we're kind of like we're not admitting it out loud, but it's kind of like, okay, if you go into the season with Sam Darnold as your quarterback, you're not playing for this year. I'm sorry. Like you're not. And I like the fact that we are thinking bigger than I feel like Minnesota Vikings teams have thought in before. We've been happy with, we want to be in the playoff mix. I'm like done with that mode. I would rather have a step back to know that in 2 or 3 years, we're going to have a legit shot at not just winning the division, but like being a real player once we get past the division, right? Which I just don't feel like we've been in a long time. And so I love doing this. I don't want McCarthy this year unless the coaching staff are seeing out of him like, yes, he is 100% ready, then put him in. But I hope it's not out of, this pressure or need to feel like they have to play him, even if we're like 3-10.
Yeah, I mean, it's like people who look at the Timberwolves and go, oh, they had a great season. They went to the Western Conference Final. That's not the goal. Like the goal is not one step. It's to win the championship, even get into that championship level, which no team has done since the Twins won the World Series in 1991. Like there's an entire generation of fans who have not seen not just the Vikings get to the Super Bowl, but like any team in this market get into a championship round. So I don't know. I mean, if I would be ecstatic with a 9-8 season. I mean, basically they're in the same spot that Philadelphia was with Jalen Hurts that first year, where they won 9 games. They got smoked by Tampa Bay in the playoffs, but hey, they had all that cap space. They went, they spent it, and they got in the Super Bowl next year, which kind of like leads me into my next point. I'll skip around the last one because this thing that I read right before we went on the air is pretty interesting, but create flexibility for the future. Like I think, when I played Madden franchises as a kid, like I did everything to protect players on the team, right? Oh, we got to keep Asante Shanko around. Like we can't just have another tight end or whatever. But I think the flexibility that Kwesi has created really paints a brighter picture of the future. It started after the 2022 season. You let go of Dalvin Cook. You let go of Eric Kendricks. Adam Thielen was released. You have a free agent exodus with Patrick Peterson and Dalvin Tomlinson. You get rid of Zadarius Smith. Kirk Cousins and Daniil Hunter leave in 2023. And the exact opinion is, oh my God, what are we going to do about this year's team? Well, the Vikings have $26.275 million in cap space in 2024. That's according to Over the Cap. They have $54.1 million in cap space in 2025 and $122.6 million in cap space in 2026. It's important to note that Christian Darrisaw is going to take up a big chunk of that money coming up, and I think they might even do more extensions. But I think that this flexibility and the ability to go wild in free agency if you want to next year, I think 2024 is an evaluation year. They're going to try and win as many games as they can. And then 2025, they're going all in.
Yeah. And you said the word right. It's flexibility. That's the word that I keep coming back to and I love, because you can take a year to see what you have. And when you have money that is in those numbers, right, you can look and you can really spend where you feel it's going to make the biggest impact. You don't have to feel like, hey, we have to do this because we have to have a guard and we can't spend anywhere else, so we have to do that. You can really evaluate this team for a couple of years, I think, and then be super thoughtful and choose the pieces that you think fit best for you and just go out and get them, right? You don't have to wait for someone to develop, right? Now you can see, okay, what rookies do we have? Where are we at? Where are their development? Oh, this guy's struggling. Let's just go plug that hole. Right. And that's what I think is going to be fun to see in the next few years. But once again, anti-Minnesota, right? We're saying goodbye to these names that we hold near and dear, that we love because, they've been here forever and we're loyal. But they are just kind of this staff, this Kwesi, how he operates is much more of a business type model. And I'm kind of digging what I'm seeing out of it. I'm excited to see where it comes the next few years.
And I think they've done a good job of being very selective with contracts. Even the people that hey, you should sign this guy. It's been a long, drawn out process. TJ Hawkinson had that hold in where he had the back injury and the ear infection and everything else in training camp. Justin Jefferson, of course, with that long, drawn out process. I think that was number one on Kwesi's list. Maybe behind quarterback. I think number one might have been quarterback, but number two was Justin Jefferson. And I don't think they had thoughts of trading Justin Jefferson, even though we're still seeing. Let's get to the point I was reading here. This is, once again, the Purple Persuasion on X. They do a great job of aggregating Vikings content. So up to the minute news, they do a good job. He writes, per Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, he is still adamant that the Vikings were open to trading Justin Jefferson and potentially drafting wide receiver Malik Nabers if there was an offer they couldn't refuse. Florio also notes that the beat writers covering the team have plenty of reasons to parrot the nothing to see here mantra. His exact quote was, "There's too much smoke to ignore on this one. Beat writers have plenty of reasons, driven both by access and a desire to not come off as having been scooped, to parrot the nothing to see here mantra. Some would say beat writers know a given team better than anyone else. While that might be true in many circumstances, there's a real difference between what beat writers can and will write and what they know and can't say. Surely some of the people covering the Vikings heard about the frustration from Jefferson's perspective and or the potential effort to get Nabers. Even more surely, it wouldn't have been great for the business of covering the team on a constant basis to be banging the drum about things the team would rather no one mention." You think they were going to trade Justin Jefferson, or is this just Mike Florio just going to the grave by, I swear to God, guys, no one believes me?
All the smoke is coming from like one place. Like, I don't know what the smoke he's talking about is. It's all coming from him. And so it's easy to say there's smoke when you're the only one really speaking. I mean, obviously, every team is going to look at options, right? And at any point, they wanted to probably be prepared that if Justin showed up one day and said, trade me, right? Like, they have to have a contingency for that. So, like, exploring or thinking about options to me is much different than actively trying to trade him. And there has been no reports from any of the local guys around here. And I get what Florio is saying, but I feel like someone somewhere other than Mike Florio would be running with this if there was a little bit more validity to it. Now, maybe did they discuss a possible package? Sure. But I do not think trading Justin Jefferson was their plan A or B or even C as they moved through this process. He's too important to selling tickets, to jerseys, to kids, to merchandising on top of like what he brings to the actual team and winning football games.
Well, and the thing is too, the offer that they're going to get, like, it does not make sense for a team that has nothing around to trade for Justin Jefferson. Like, because you have to sign him, right? So, I mean, that leaves you with contenders who have picks in the bottom half of the draft. And it just, every time Kwesi Adofo-Mensah talked to the media, he said something nice about Justin Jefferson. It was not, the Rick Spielman deadpanning, we are not trading Percy Harvin or Stephon Diggs or whoever. Like, it seemed like the entire time they're like, we're signing this dude. We are re-signing this dude. And like Adam Schefter had a report too, where he said everybody was shot down that called the Vikings. So if there was a trade, like even if it had gotten to that point, was there an offer that the Vikings wanted Malik Nabers and they tried to trade up for him? To replace Jefferson? I don't think so. Could they have tried to trade up for him? Sure. I mean, he's a top 5 prospect. Maybe they tried to use the 10th overall pick, move up for Nabers, and then try and move up from 17 or 23 or wherever they were to try and get the second one. But this whole thing is just weird. It's ego driven. It's insane. Take an L, dude. Take an L, Mike Florio. Like, it's okay. We're all wrong. Like, it doesn't matter. And it's not just like you said, it's one person blowing smoke compared to about 7 or 8 beat writers and Adam Schefter saying, no, they were never going to trade him. So,
and it's coming from a guy who's like, I don't know, Florio's not my favorite. You know, he was Mr. Anti Kirk Cousins until he got hurt and we got rid of him. And then he's been all like, I can't believe that they didn't re-sign him. Like, I just don't really, and he's on a local show and I listen to him, and every time he's on, I don't know, man. There are people I like whose takes I like better than him. He seems like he kind of goes with the wind a little bit with what would create a little bit of controversy, which I know is his shtick a little bit. You know, I'm going to say the thing that no one else is saying to try to, you know, drum up interest. I just think that there's no real backing behind this one, but he's getting the pub for it, which is exactly what he wants, right?
I swear to God, Paul Allen wants to fight him by the time they're done with the segment every time. Whereas it, well, you know, Paul, I mean, there are some certain things that I know that nobody else knows. Actually, I know a lot about football. My co-host, Chris Sims, he knows a lot about football too, and thought Kellen Mond was one of the best quarterbacks in that draft class a couple of years ago. And then he failed to not even, like, Kevin O'Connell could like find something in Kirk Cousins and like nothing in Kellen Mond. So I don't know, man. That tells you something. I think Mond's like on his 4th team now too.
Yep. But not a great pick.
not a great pick. You know what's fun though too? Now that Justin Jefferson is signed, we can go over top 5 trade destinations. CD Lamb holding out. We need to get him out of Dallas right now, everybody. But nobody's writing that because it's the Cowboys. But I did find one article, and this kind of proves my point that NFL trades are weird. Brad, it's Gagnon. So it might be Gannon. I don't know. But he writes for Bleacher Report. Hopefully he gets paid in more than sweatshirts. I got that sweatshirt too. It was very nice, very comfortable, but I had to fight for it. And then it got ripped like right away. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of cheap. I hope they're paying their people in more than sweatshirts these days. But he wrote down 4 trade proposals that the Cowboys can't refuse for CD Lamb. You want to hear some of these?
I'd love to hear some of these Bleacher Report trade proposals.
Do you want me to read them in the TikTok voice, or do you want me just to?
Yeah, I like the TikTok voice. So all right. TikTok voice. Okay.
All right. I will try and be NFL Scoop 69-420 for your entertainment right now. And I'll just say, I gotta get in character. Hey, yo, this NFL Scoop 69-420's top 4 trade destinations for CD Lamb. CD Lamb holdout of OTAs. We got to put him somewhere now because the Cowboys ain't going to pay him. First of all, we got the New England Patriots. New England Patriots need a wide receiver. They just drafted Drake May, Bill Belichick out of there. He doing something else. They got Gerard Mayo. Patriots going to give up Jalen Polk in a first-round draft pick. Jalen Polk got taken second round, first-round draft pick. Cowboys going to need that. They're going to take another receiver to replace CD Lamb. Then we're going to go to LA. Number 2, Ladd McConkey. He white. He looking like Wes Welker out there. But you know what? That white boy can ball. We got a first-round pick and the Chargers, Ladd McConkey, CD Lamb. That's where we're going there. Steelers, George Pickens. Yeah, man, he's a baller, man. They don't know what they doing up there. All out there going to use him like B. John Robinson. We're going to give him George Pickens, a 2nd-round pick. CD Lamb going to be catching balls with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. And then finally, the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love, he's the best quarterback in the league. Everybody think he's Jesus Christ now. We going to put him with Pat. We ain't going to put him with Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes need a wide receiver, but he don't like CD Lamb. They paid in Big 12. Now they're SEC rivals now. We got Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs, Jalen Reed, and a 2nd-round pick for CD Lamb. Jordan Love going to be throwing up to CD Lamb. Like, comment, subscribe for more.
That was good.
How was that?
I don't know that one really well. I'm not a huge TikTok guy, but you brought the energy there.
I did. It was over a minute. They suggest it's under. I make my own social media content too, so I shouldn't like smash people. But usually it's just like interviews and stuff I do on here, and not like aggregating fake rumors. But these trade proposals are dog shit.
They're not great.
I'm sorry, Brad Gannon. I know it's hard creating content and everything else, but this is what we do. This was the Justin Jefferson thing. Like, people were probably saying Ladd McConkey in a first round pick for Justin Jefferson. Like, it's the dumbest shit ever. And we always do it. Like, the Cowboys are going to pay CeeDee Lamb, but nope, we got to get clicks. We got to get engagement. We got to get all that stuff. Like, Mike Florio's got to get back on the air and be like, I was right about Malik Neighbors. The fuck you were, man. It didn't happen. Like, I don't know. I think that's like, I'm going on my own special rant right now, but I like, it just annoys the hell out of me. So.
Yeah, I look at these four and I'm like, I just don't see any of them that are even really close. Like, why would the Cowboys entertain any of these? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm holding CD and Justin in like a little bit too high of a tier, but I don't think any of these really get close to actual value for a top 5 wide receiver in the entire league.
And even yeah, I mean, I looked at George Pickens in a second round pick and I'm like, well, maybe, but then the Steelers have to pay CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys have to pay George Pickens immediately. Like, that doesn't like, the Packers one is hilarious too. So you got Christian Watson. It's Christian Watson or Romeo Doubs. I read it wrong, but
it's not both. Okay.
It's not both. No. Even if it was, I don't think it'd be enough, but like, Christian Watson's basically like a better version of Troy Williamson. He just drops everything and gets hurt all the time. And then there's Romeo Doubs, who's fine, I guess. And, you know, Jalen Reed's fine, but I don't know, man. I mean, I get why people do it. I get why, you know, everything happens. It's way more fun on the other side when you know, hey, they're aggregating. They're trying to get clicks. This is hilarious. And here we are because Justin Jefferson signed a contract and they aren't replacing him with Malik Neighbors.
I know. I look at all those 4 trades and I'm like, man, if I was a Cowboy fan and any of those happened, I'd quit. I'd be like, hey, you got me an Eagles jersey somewhere? This is awful.
Pull a Saquon Barkley. Just go from one NFC East rival to another. Just it'll be okay. That'll be a game that everybody will shove down our throats when we don't care. We don't want to watch Daniel Jones. Just good luck, Saquon. We'll see the Eagles plenty. Let's talk about 2024. We just got done saying it was a evaluation year, but when it comes to this team, they could use another little something to bring it all together. What else do you think the Vikings need to do before the 2024 season to be a winning football team?
Well, what they should do and what they will do to me are 2 different questions. I think the weak spots on this team, like I'm nervous about the interior defensive line. I think for me, that is the number one kind of fear I have, is just watching teams just run it down our throats over and over. I love the edge players that we got. I think we're going to be able to bring some pressure. Love the safeties. I think the corner situation, you know, you're going to eventually have to probably add some talent there, but I think it's serviceable. But that interior defensive line is my number one concern. I was a little bit more worried about the interior offensive line too, but I think the Reisner signing helps that. You know, it got the type of player I thought and I wanted them to bring in, to not just, you know, if Blake Brandel does win it, great, but at least you weren't just handing it to him. If he beats out Dalton for that job, I'll feel better about it. But to me, that is the one giant hole I see on this team.
Reisner is so interesting to me. Like, it's weird he's back. I'm happy he's back. But Darren Wolfson mentioned this on Score North this morning, that when you talk to him and you see his interviews, like, the guy has a great attitude. The guy, you know, I mean, he willingly gave his favorite food spots just rapid fire. Just like, yeah, I go there, I get a case of beer, and then I go somewhere else, and, you know, they got the salsa bar, and I got eggs. And dude loves his food, which is kind of good because he's an offensive lineman. But, like, it just seems like that's the kind of guy you want on your team, like a guy who's willing to do anything. And maybe he's saying those things because he didn't get a deal for the second straight year, and he wants to kind of prove that this year. He didn't wait until September to get a job, so he went right in and he showed up with a positive attitude. That guard position, it's really interesting because I'll float this out there to you. I think Ed Ingram's job is in more danger than Blake Brandel's right now. And I think that if Ed Ingram struggles, it's a hard name to say. Blake Brandel already has experience at right guard. You put him there, you keep Dalton Reisner at left guard where he's comfortable, and you run it back, and Ingram becomes a depth. I can't talk. A depth piece. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, and to me, that's the beauty of signing Reisner back, is it just gives you some options. I don't think any of those three guys are all pro guards who are gonna be crushing, the Aaron Donald types of the world and creating holes for Aaron Jones like Moses parted the seas. But I think that if any of them struggle, you just have another option to go to, that depth piece. And so, yeah, I'm all for it. And Reisner's funny too. Like, he's solid, but something has to be a little off about him because, once again, like, no one does actually want to sign him right away, right? Like, I don't know if he comes in with these massive numbers and everyone's like, well, yeah, no, we'll just wait till you realize what your actual market value is. But it was just kind of a weird situation 2 years in a row with him. But every interview, like you said, he seems like a cool dude. His wife seems pretty cool. She's been, she promoted a bunch of Vikings type stuff on social media last year. So I don't know. I mean, these are the little nitty gritty signings that could, swing, a game or two here and there.
I'd drink a case of beer with Dalton Reisner.
Yeah.
That's kind of like a litmus test. Like, would you go have a beer? Yeah, sure. Maybe it'd be like 2 or 3 and be like, all right, well, I gotta go. But for me, I think the one thing the Vikings need to do is add a third receiver. I know they don't have their third receiver running deep routes like Randy Moss in 1998 out there, but right now your third receiver battle is between Brandon Powell, Trent Sherfield Jr., or Jalen Naylor. And Naylor wasn't at minicamp the other day because nobody knows why, so he might already be hurt, which is kind of what he's done so far in his career. I think they need to sign one more guy to bring it all together. Maybe it's just a house of cards just to see if anybody falls behind and you have that depth. I know they took N'Keal Harry out of the receiver room and put him at tight end, which is, it's almost like failed receivers are like Pokemon. Like, they evolve into a tight end. Just like, now you're a tight end now. Go bulk up and see if you can catch passes that way. Yeah, I mean, I think they need to sign one more receiver. And don't forget this, too. And I know they signed Robert Tonyan. I know they're converting N'Keal Harry. Like, TJ Hawkinson's probably going to be out the first 6 weeks, if not more. Like, I wouldn't be, honestly, if he was out until week 9, I wouldn't be surprised because it's multi-ligament knee surgery. They didn't have it until February. Like, he might not be ready to go until halfway through the season. So one more pass catching weapon, I think, would benefit this offense greatly.
Yeah, I mean, the tight end, I wasn't even thinking tight end. You think TJ, but you're right. I mean, he's going to be out a while. I don't think they really have a solid replacement there. And so maybe that does come from signing another receiver and doing, some more 3-4 wide sets. I really liked Brandon Powell last year. I really liked what I saw out of him. I think he is a piece that I'm excited to see grow. I think he's serviceable. I think he can continue to add some value to this team, but it's a depth thing for me again. I mean, any receiver goes down, any of your, top 3, I'm kind of including Powell in that. And it's like, oh, who's coming up next? And so I think, yes, another body, to me, I'm looking at some sort of veteran out there, someone who's a little bit savvy, who can come in, you can rely on, but doesn't require, 10 targets a game and has an ego that's huge. But yeah, I think that's another need spot, like you said.
Other Vikings news, like, we could sit here and we could talk about OTAs. We could talk about, I'm trying to think if what other OTA news came out this week. I don't know. I think I hit N'Keal Harry. I hit Blake Brandel, who I still can't say. The running game, I don't know. It seems like Aaron Jones is going to be good. So that might be another area where I'm kind of like, maybe you should add one more because Aaron Jones got hurt. What's that?
I was saying you're gonna get a good 9 games out of him. That's 8 other games. You got to find another running back typically, right? And so yeah.
And people know how I feel about Ty Chandler. I think something's up where he cannot take this starting role. By the way, I did tell you I saw Aaron Jones at the Royal Rumble, right?
Did you know? Did you saw Aaron Jones at the Rumble?
So I didn't like see him directly, but our friend who is a Packer fan, he went up, he saw him and he like went up because like he has like no fear taking photos with wrestlers or anything. Sure. It's pretty awesome. He actually, this is kind of a sidebar. And here's where we spiral into wrestling talk. But he went to a high school gym and a couple years ago, and he went to the show and he met one of the wrestlers and he was like sitting there and he was talking with them. And pretty cool guy. And at the end, he's like, well, do you guys want to take a picture at the end? And it's like, yeah, sure, whatever. So he's sitting there in his suit and he takes a picture with him. And the wrestler was Cody Rhodes, who yeah.
Is that a pretty good year?
Yeah. I wonder what happened to that guy that was wrestling in a high school gym a couple years ago. That's pretty crazy. But nice. No, Aaron Jones was just sitting there chilling, and my friend went up to him and took a photo. At that time, he was a member of the Packers, so I didn't really care. But yeah. Also, fun fact: Jelly Roll was also in my section at the Royal Rumble.
Nice. You just sit with the beautiful people.
Exactly. Well, I paid enough to sit with the beautiful people. That's for damn sure. But yeah, he was just sitting there in like the second row. But he's like, man, that guy's big. I'm like, oh, that's Jelly Roll. And he's like, who's Jelly Roll? So I had to explain that to him. But other note of Vikings news, the Vikings have new jerseys. They have a new helmet. It is a Winter Warrior jerseys. I said Winter Whiteout in the little thing here, but it's actually Winter Warrior jerseys. It's an all white jersey with purple numbers and white helmets. It's the first jersey in Vikings history to not have gold on the jersey. Instead, it's replaced by silver with icicles. I'm doing the finger quotations thing for those who can't see me, hanging off the numbers. And it also has a silver face mask with a purple outline. This is kind of what I wanted them to do with the white helmets. Like just have that purple outline, kind of like South Dakota State has with their white helmets, where just a blue jackrabbit on the side. It looks pretty clean. It's scheduled to be worn December 16th when the Vikings host the Bears on Monday Night Football. What do you think of the Winter Warrior jerseys?
I've wanted a white helmet for a while. It feels like the one thing we're missing. So I loved the look of this as an alternative. I'm like, love the Oregons of the world. I'm a Gopher guy, and I've loved the I just dig that.
New uniforms coming for the Gophers tomorrow.
I know, tomorrow I hear they got one upped today by the Vikings. But so I'm all in for that. I love different looks. Especially, I love the classic Viking look as well. And if we go to the Super Bowl, I don't want to be wearing the winter whiteout jerseys, right? But I love on a Monday Night Football throwing something else new there. But did you see when they unveiled it today? My favorite thing of I think the whole day was they're bringing the players in to view the jerseys. And everyone's like, oh, that's clean. That's sick. That's amazing. And Harrison Smith just comes in and he's kind of just like, that's cool. That looks really good. That looks really nice. And he just it was just so Harrison Smith of just I don't really care at all. But I have to be on camera. It was my favorite moment because everyone else was just raving about him. And he just was like, yeah, that looks really nice.
He when the Timberwolves played the Nuggets and all those videos about Jokic came out, there's one guy who did one. It's like a day in the life of Nikola Jokic, and he's just laying on the bed, and his wife or whatever, he throws a water on him. He's like, you have game today, and he's like, what? No game. I want to watch horses. He has to go and accept the MVP award. He's talking to Ernie Johnson, and he's just yeah, thank you very much, Ernie. I do not care. Yeah, I do not care at all. That is Harrison Smith just walking in with this coffee, looking at the winter whiteout jersey, which everybody's losing their mind over. He's like, All right, cool. Yeah, looks nice. Yeah. I'm just gonna go lift until I die. I also love that he decided to come back when he was like doing some carpentry and he just saw it on the TV, like NFL free agency. He's like, I think I'll come back.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that's all we needed to do. Not a Brett Favre thing. Is there anything else that the Vikings should add to their jersey repertoire in the future?
I love the old retro jerseys. I want to see more of that. I don't know. I'm not. I think something black would be cool to feature. Almost like a midnight type of jersey. I think if you wanted to get a little more extreme, like a goldish helmet, almost like Notre Dame type, like a goal. I don't know. I'm not in love with the idea, but if you're like looking for ways to, it's like the city edition jerseys in the NBA. Like you want to make a quick buck, create a new city edition jersey, and half the kids in my school will buy it. And so, something gold, it seems to always sell as well. I'm not a huge gold guy, but I don't know. White helmet was the thing I've been screaming about for years. So I'm pretty pleasantly happy tonight about the change.
I didn't know how it would look with all the silver instead of gold, but it looks freaking awesome. The other thing with the Winter Warriors, jerseys is that Packer fans have been like, yeah, you get to play it in your climate controlled stadium. I'm like, it's all fun and games until there's a snowstorm at Lambeau Field. And what jersey do you want to wear? Let's wear the completely white ones. Good luck with that, assholes.
Yes. Oh, that would be epic. I never thought about that idea of wearing them on the road in snow games. Oh man.
Yeah, that would be somebody would step in like, yeah, you gotta go get the purple helmets, guys. Just something like this is not happening right now. No gold, like at all. Because like it's the Vikings gold isn't like a gold. It's like a bright yellow. And if you did that like as a jersey, like when I was growing up, 1998, Randy Moss exploded on the scene and people wanted Randy Moss jerseys so bad that they sold out. And the only thing left were these gold jerseys with purple numbers and like a white outline. So they were basically like reverse. I don't really know how to explain it, but I got one for Christmas and it was my favorite Vikings jersey ever. But my God, it was ugly. Like it was so bad. But again, I loved it because my parents, I don't know, they probably fought at grandma to get it for me. But I don't want to see the Vikings bring that back. I also lean against black, but I'd be okay with it because I own a lot of black Viking stuff. So like if I saw it, I'd be like, cool. But I feel like black and purple is kind of like a Baltimore Ravens thing. So I kind of just better well leave nothing alone. And the other thing, I think this is my number one now, is I want them to bring back some form of the 2000 style away jerseys. The Dante Culpepper, Randy Moss, where you got the purple and the gold stripes on the shoulders and the purple and gold letters. That's just a classic look. I like it. It's one of my favorite Vikings jerseys because it's tradition. So I don't think the Vikings jerseys are so bad. You need to like revamp everything. I think they have some of the best jerseys in the NFL, especially compared to some of the modern ones Nike has cranked out. But I like what they have going on here. But if we're going to do something else, I think that would be my list.
Yeah.
List of demands. This is usually the part where I ask my co-host what they got cooking at another website, but you don't, I mean, all due respect to your second graders, right?
Fifth graders now. I used to teach second. You're right there.
Yep. And I helped out a bunch of second graders.
You did? You helped my daughter's class. We appreciate that. Logan Paul. It's great.
Yeah. So me and Logan talk all the time. He said he's going to teach me cool wrestling moves at some point. Yep. I'm like, it's kind of bad. I should probably lose weight before I do like front flips and elbow drops, but
she's got all your pictures up in her closet right now. She was so excited that you took Flat Stanley to all the sporting events. So you crushed it, man.
A future Jackrabbit in the making, apparently.
Yep.
got any hot wrestling takes at the moment? Like, I don't know.
Man, I'm excited. We got Em and I, my daughter, we are going to be front row at Raw this summer. We got Dad snuck and spent way more money than my wife knows to get us front row on the entrance ramp, right where all the high fives are. So I'm super excited for that. The announcement of SummerSlam, 2-day SummerSlam coming in a couple of years as our consolation prize for never going to get a WrestleMania. But still, I'll take it. But it just feels right now, and this is really the reason I come on your show was this last 5 to 10 minutes. But it just feels like after a huge mania where all these big stories came to an end, which was awesome. Long-term storytelling is my favorite type of wrestling. And you're going to have moments where things come to an end where now you have to start building again. And we just feel like we're in that building stage right now. But they got a few little things cooking. I love the Chad Gable and Otis stuff. They're kind of slow building that, which is great. The Judgment Day, bringing in Liv, which has been really hard because my daughters love Liv Morgan, and now she's like a bad guy. And they hate Dominic, and they're like, why did she kiss Dominic? What is wrong? His hair, Dad, is disgusting. And so I like what they're doing there. I think Jey Uso is like getting to another level. Like I love the love that how over he is and how the fans are accepting him. I want to see him like actually win a big match. Like that would be nice. But it's kind of fun. But they just feel like they're building it. I'm okay. I'm still a fan. I see some of the seeds that they're planting with the bloodline again. And you just got to let it percolate. I know it's not going to feel like that intense WrestleMania stuff, but this is okay. This is building towards another one of those down the line.
You and I were talking off the air, and it's like sometimes you have one big storyline end, or maybe two. Like they had like 8 end at WrestleMania. Like Gunther lost his title. You had to rebuild the women's title story after Rhea went down, but I feel like that hasn't skipped a beat now that they've injected Dom into it and turned Liv heel. I think that's been absolutely incredible, especially with Pat McAfee's telestrator on Monday night. I mean, you just kind of gotta let it play. It's gonna be, and like you said, the bloodline stuff too. I think that them getting, I can't remember the names because they all sound the same. I know that's horrible to say, but there's Tama Tonga, there's Tongaloa, there's Jacob Fatu is somewhere in there.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of guys who are just kind of waiting, and it's like you have all these cards, you're just kind of waiting for them to play them. And I think the biggest of all is the return of Roman Reigns and how that plays into everything. And will he get a rematch with Cody? Will he come back and start bickering with Solo? Will, where does The Rock fit into this? I mean, he's doing movies until the end of the year, but at some point he's going to come back into the fold. It's exciting. It's exciting. And I think if you just focus on what they're feeding you at the moment, the PLEs at all levels have been gold, just banger after banger. So for lack of a better term, but I mean, I watch a PLE and I'm like, I was entertained for 3 hours. This is pretty good stuff. Like they find a way to reward the week to week watchers like you and I. And then in the end, it's pretty enjoyable.
And what a brilliant move. And I've said this before, to take some of these smaller PLEs and bring them around the world. Like these international crowds are crushing it. Like France was insane. And I loved that show. It felt so much bigger because of the energy that was in the room. Like the American crowds have sucked at some of these PLEs. Yeah. And what a brilliant move to throw them and put them in these places where this might be the one show they get, because they absolutely crush it. And it makes the whole product, the whole production just significantly more entertaining to watch. Like kudos to France. That was the best crowd I think I have ever seen outside of maybe Chicago when Punk and Cena battled and he ran away with the title. Like the hottest crowd that I've seen. Like what a brilliant strategic move by the company to do that.
I think I saw a video with Dakota Kai, like on her Twitch or something, and she was talking about France is so crazy and the crowd was nuts, and we love that. We love that energy. And then we had to go to Hartford.
Yep.
She's like, I'm sorry.
Yep.
But I mean, it's true. Like when you go just to the US, I mean, it makes even having like a Raw special. Like when Raw goes to St. Paul next month here, you feel like, hey, this is a big event because they don't come here. Like, I think that's one of the problem with AEW right now is they go to the same markets all the time where it's just like, okay, they're in Chicago again, or they're in Long Island again because they're top stars from Long Island. Like, I think WWE is doing it, and I think AEW does some things well. Like, I've watched their last 2 pay-per-views because I found a way to do it. But I wait for those for the audio audience. But yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time to be a wrestling fan. Wrestling is cool again, and it's proven because a whole bunch of second graders think I know Logan Paul now.
Yeah, well done, and your shot of all of your pay-per-view chairs was impressive. that got some mad respect from the second grader as well. Like, look at you, he's been to the Rumble. I'm like, he's been to more than one Rumble. What? Because the Rumble she's actually more pushing to go to a Rumble than she is a WrestleMania, because that match is like her favorite match on earth. So
I think, as someone who's been to 2 Rumbles, I agree. Like, the Rumble that's like the kick. It's like going to week 1 of the NFL season, right? Or like the first round of the playoff game, because like, okay, this is where things really turn up and the intensity is there. And, you get a whole bunch of people fired up. Like, I remember going to a bar and like, there's this kid dressed up as LA Knight, and he had the Timbs, he had the jean jacket and everything else. And I looked at him, I'm like, yeah. And he turned around, he went, LA Knight. And, you get the surprise people and people pop for that. And you don't know what's going to happen or who's going to come in or whatever. It is exciting. 8 p.m. bell tips a little, when you've been celebrating all day, it's a little, little hairy with an 8 p.m. bell, but definitely my favorite on the calendar. So if you got anything else to say, I guess I'll close things out.
I appreciate, right? I feel like I'm that long reliever that doesn't get in a ton, but like when you're out of options and it's like, I get the text like, hey, this week, option A through D, all can't make it. We need you, big guy. Like, get your family ready because we're bringing you in for these 3 innings of a meaningless game. Let's do this. And so I've been excited all week. I appreciate it. I love coming on. So thanks for having me.
Rocco burnt up Yon Duran for 4 innings the other night. We gotta make a call to St. Paul. So technically you're in White Bear, but you're just a stone's throw from CHL's field. So it's a very good analogy.
There we go. I'm like the Randy Dobnak of podcasts right now. Yep.
Well, that's a good way to close the show. I think that's all the time we have for the Viking Age today, now that we're into Randy Dobnak references. We do this every Monday with a late week episode right here on the Viking Age YouTube channel. We're also in podcast form on Apple and Spotify the very next day. But however you consume us, make sure you rate, comment, like, and subscribe so you never miss a new episode and we can spread the word to the masses. For Nick Marty, I am Chris Schad. This has been the Viking Age Podcast.